We all have different plans for Thanksgiving, but we will universally be impacted by the weather. Traveling to or from DIA, it's good right now. Staying put, good right now. Driving to or from the mountains, oh boy. Major winter storm will likely bring 1 to 3 feet of snow to the mountains by the time the storm ends tomorrow. Drivers learned this earlier today on I-70. They were stuck for hours today. CDOT shut down the interstate between Loveland Pass and Silverthorne in both directions because of, drivers and snow. It reopened around 3:30, then shut down again about an hour ago. Our Corey Reppenhagen is in the elements in Georgetown, and we'll check in with him in just a moment. First, let's head over to 9 News Weather Impact Team Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabin. We've been warning about this, Kathy. Here it is. It's in the mountains like we promised. When's the spillover coming to the metro area?
It's going to happen overnight, Marshall. As a matter of fact, I've been watching the I-70 corridor going in and out of the tunnel, and the snow's been heavy at times. We've seen some pictures coming in from Steamboat where the plows are out, and they are getting ready for you holiday skiers. There's a lot of moisture coming in from the west. This system tapping into an atmospheric river, and that means a prolonged, extended period of snow for the mountains. Denver warm today. Cloudy, 50s. We're cooling back to the mid-40s. The big story in the mountains. But overnight, we have a weather impact night for Denver. We go under a winter weather advisory for 2 to 4 inches of snow. The greatest impact 3 a.m. to noon in Denver. Light accumulation, but bursts of snow could certainly impact your drive to DIA or your drive anywhere late tonight and tomorrow. All the snow in the high country for now. A few showers in the form of rain trying to come down in the eastern plains communities. The heavy snow continues in the winter storm warning area in red. Already 6 to 12 inches of snow, and we're going to double, maybe triple those numbers by this time tomorrow. Denver included in a winter weather advisory, 2 to 4 from Denver to DIA, 4 to 8 west and south. And the snow will be heavy in the high country. These numbers are on top of what they've already seen. How much more snow and how does Thanksgiving Day look? Marshall, I'll have that for you in just a little bit.
Kathy, thanks. Now to the guy we've been keeping outside so long, the beard has turned white from cold, Corey Reppenhagen. You've managed to stay far enough east of probably where the highway is shut down and drivers don't know how to handle the snow. What are you seeing where you're at?
Yeah, that's right, Marshall. And just to be clear, I think this is not ice. This is old age. So I think I've turned 35 17 times now. My birthday was on Saturday. But I'm here in Georgetown right now. Just light snow, warm temperatures, nothing sticking to the roads just yet. But this storm has been a high impact winter storm for the mountains, in particular the mountain passes. So just up the road here at the Eisenhower Johnson tunnels. Normally it's about a 25-minute drive from here in Georgetown over the pass and into Summit County. We have seen this slowed down so bad that it took 2.5 hours at one point today to get over the pass. But at the moment, it is running smooth in both directions here on I-70 at the Eisenhower Johnson tunnels. But the next phase will be to include these areas from 9,000 feet down to 7,000 feet. So that's what's going to happen from now until the overnight hours. And then once we get to the morning hours by about sunrise, Marshall, will start to see a couple of heavy bands right down there at Spear and Logan where you are.
Then we can put you outside here where you can look like you frosted over and then twist my arm to say a happy belated birthday, calling me out on live TV to say it to you 3 days ago now. I'm late 3 days. Sorry, Corey. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
For the first time, Aurora Police has put together a use of force report detailing the type of force officers used and how often. And it shows while use of force is increasing, officers are using less lethal forces. This type of transparency is required under a consent decree with the state after a pattern of racially biased policing. The agreement came 2 years after the death of Elijah McClain. This Aurora Police report shows there were 4 lethal use of force incidents last year, down from 13 the year before. Total use of force is up, though. The report suggests it's because officers are back to proactive policing following COVID and because the state legislature redefined what use of force means. As for less lethal force, the department credits increased officer training.
So we're encouraging our officers to do much more assessment and more recognition of what other alternatives there might be. And then we've also instituted some additional options for our officers to use that are also less lethal options with regard to some more of the intermediate weapons.
Though those intermediate weapons have always been available, things like tasers, batons are still used, and police dogs, the report also breaks down demographics. Black people still experience the most use of force, with more than 40% of Aurora's incidents. More than any other race or ethnicity, Aurora's black population is about 16%. With a new nonprofit on the way, the city of Aurora is making changes on what organizations get the city's money. The Aurora Regional Navigation Campus is expected to open next year. It's supposed to provide wraparound services for those experiencing homelessness. And it's one of the reasons why a couple of other groups will not get city funding next year. 9 News reporter Julissa Irizarry explains.
In a city of about 400,000 people, calls for help are inevitable. Diana Goldberg's organization often answers.
How many families do you guys think you help out a year?
About 1,200.
And how many of those do you think are in Aurora?
About half.
Goldberg runs Sungate Kids. It's a group that helps children who have been abused. They conduct forensic interviews and work with families with everything that comes after, from therapy to prevention education.
So Aurora is our largest reporting district.
But the demand is not aligning with the dollars.
It's the same NOFO we do every year.
In an Aurora City Council study session earlier this month, the Homeless Services Department made their recommendations for the upcoming year. They get their funding from a few places, including public safety assistant grants. That's where Sungate got their $17,000 last year.
Heartbreaking.
But this year, Sungate is recommended to get $0.
Heartbreaking.
Initially, the city of Aurora said it was because of a shift in focus. With the Regional Navigation Campus opening, they wanted to prioritize groups that provide services to families that are experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness. They said the two organizations that didn't get funding, quote, either don't primarily work with families or don't provide homeless services. But in 2023, those were some of the same requirements, and Sungate got the money. So we asked again, and a city official pointed to a scoring rubric saying the groups that didn't get funding, quote, simply didn't score as high as the others. They look into things like how successful the organization is in terms of helping people achieve self-sufficiency and getting them housed. Last year, Sungate scored a 79.5 out of 100. This year's scores weren't presented.
So for the city of Aurora to turn its back on us and say, we are not going to give you any money, really translates into we are not investing in the well-being and the health and the future of our children and youth.
Goldberg says the funding loss may mean cuts for Sungate, the last thing she believes the city needs.
It's very easy for people to say, well, they can just find funding elsewhere. There is no elsewhere.
The city says they're focusing on families this year because the Aurora Regional Navigation Campus will be for single adults. City leaders also recommended the Colorado Safe Parking Initiative receive zero funding. That's the group that gives people a safe place to sleep in cars. City Council is expected to vote on this next week.
I imagine all these groups could perhaps, I know that last soundbite was, you think there's other money? There probably isn't. But you need notice just to even try to get other money, and even that other money is drying up.
Yeah, and even Diana mentioned that they have been slowly losing funding from the city for quite some time, for several years. I think at one point they did have $50,000 in funding from the city, and it kept progressively dropping. Last year, 17, now 0. She also mentioned the VOCA funding, the Victims of Crime Act. They lost 27% of their funding from that as well.
This is not a good time. It's the end of the year when you should have all the ducks in a row moving ahead for next year. It's a really tough time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully they can find some help. Thank you, Julissa. Being behind bars is not a get-out-of-jail-free card from other investigations. Former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters, who is serving 9 years for facilitating a breach of her county's election systems, still faces another investigation. Did her criminal legal defense fund violate state ethics laws? This week, the state's Independent Ethics Commission announced it would continue the investigation, which has been stalled for years while Peters was in criminal court. One of the complaints against Peters is that she improperly raised money for her legal defense while serving as an elected clerk, and that she did not disclose her donors. 2 more complaints focus on Peters' relationship with MyPillow guy Mike Lindell regarding free air travel and security to his cyber symposium in South Dakota, and the amount of money he said he contributed to Peters' legal defense, at least the amount he bragged about when I asked him in 2022.
How much have you raised for Tina Peters' legal defense fund?
I just put all the money in myself.
And how much is that?
I don't know. I probably put in 3, 4, 5, maybe $800,000 of my own money.
$300,000 to $800,000 is quite a range. You'd think you'd know. Regardless, that amount is almost $300,000 to $800,000 more than Peters would have been allowed to accept under the state's constitution. In 2022, elected leaders like Peters could only accept $65 from someone who was not a family member or close friend. If she did violate the state's ethics laws, she could be fined twice the amount of the gift, so $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, maybe $800,000 times 2.
My objective at this point is that death should be exempt.
You would think death would get you out of a lease, but that apparently is not always the case, and a lawmaker is trying to change that. And if you're feeding an entire family for Thanksgiving, well, you better start prepping now. If you're feeding thousands of people for Thanksgiving, the prep should have been yesterday. We went to a kitchen for a lesson in hard work and charity. Getting out of a lease can be notoriously hard. So hard, even dying may not absolve you of the terms. Steve on your side learned a loophole in state law means some families are being hit with early termination fees on behalf of a loved one who rudely did not give proper notice before dying. It happened to Patty Richardson. Her mom died last year after a long battle with dementia. But Patty was surprised to get a bill for the following month's rent at her mother's assisted care facility.
We had about 8 days or 9 days left in the month that had already been paid for. But they sent me a bill for 30 more days. They said, yes, but you'll have to read your lease on page such and such and such. And I went back and looked, and sure enough.
Man, imagine that conversation. Look at your lease and look. When she tried to fight it, she was directed to a clause in her mother's lease, quote, upon the death of the resident, termination of the agreement will be effective 30 days after passing. While death usually leads to an automatic termination of a lease, state law says if it's explicitly included in the lease terms, then it may not be automatic. Republican State Representative Ron Weinberg plans to introduce a bill next year to get rid of that loophole.
You know, if I have to put my parents into places and it happens to them, I couldn't imagine not only dealing with the death of my immediate family members, but then getting hit with a bill.
It's just a draft bill, so we don't know if Democrats will be on board with Weinberg's idea. Democrats have full control of the state legislature. The company that owned the home where Patty's mom lived has not responded to Steve on your side's questions about their lease terms. 2 Colorado grocery giants are facing a new legal challenge. A class action lawsuit accuses the parent companies of King Soopers and Safeway of colluding to weaken employee bargaining power during a 2022 strike. The state of Colorado is already suing over those claims in an effort to stop the parent companies, Kroger and Albertsons, from merging. But this class action lawsuit could allow thousands of employees to also cash in. The lawsuit claims emails between Kroger and Albertsons show that the 2 companies conspired to work together when King Soopers union members went on strike in 2022. In those emails, Albertsons allegedly agreed to not hire King Soopers employees during the strike, which the union claims diminished their bargaining ability. The lawsuit seeks a pay raise and benefits for thousands of employees. Colorado's Attorney General is already seeking $2 million in penalties from both companies, saying they violated state and federal laws against no-poach agreements. Both companies have previously denied making a deal during the strike. This is separate from 2 lawsuits attempting to keep the 2 companies from merging.
Marshall, as advertised, we have a big mountain snowstorm today. While Denver went from mostly sunny to mostly cloudy skies with temperatures in the 50s and 60s. But all of this moisture is coming in as part of an atmospheric river, which means a prolonged period of snow for the mountains and eventually for us. Hopefully you look like these folks up enjoying a beautiful day at Vail. That snow looks magical over the holidays, but getting there tonight has been a problem. Numerous road closures and accidents. Call ahead and plan ahead. Temperatures have come down out of the mid-50s into the mid-40s for Denver. All of the heavy snow continues above 8,000 feet. We do expect at some point this evening we could see snowfall rates of 1 inch an hour in the winter storm warning area in red for 1 to 2 feet of snow. Denver included in a winter weather advisory from 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. for 2 to 4 inches of snow, but 4 to 8 inches are possible west and south. And these forecast numbers are on top of the 6 to 12 inches the mountains have already seen today. For Denver, light accumulation out by DIA, thankfully, hopefully not a huge impact for those of you flying out tomorrow somewhere or waiting for someone to come in. But you go west and south, and you're in that 4 to 8 inch snowfall range. And some of the snow could come in short bursts tonight, initially starting as rain around midnight, mixing with snow overnight, continuing until about 2, 3 o'clock, and then drier air works in. The whole thing's out of here by tomorrow night. But not this night. Rain and snow developing by 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, continuing into the morning. A winter weather impact day for Wednesday, 2 to 4 inches of snow ahead of a sunny but cold Thanksgiving. Beautiful string of days, back to sunshine in 50s for the first few days of December.
I was here this morning at 3 o'clock, so getting turkeys and stuff ready.
Early wake-up call. He and his staff are feeding a small army this Thanksgiving, so we go behind the kitchen doors to see the hard work it takes to feed the homeless. That's going to make feedback very interesting. How long is your longest grocery list? Photojournalist Byron Reed caught up with one local chef who's prepping meals for thousands of guests.
On a daily basis, we do over 3,000 meals a day, 7 days a week. James Prunty, I'm the culinary director for Denver Metro Social Services. We're busy. I was here this morning at 3 o'clock, getting turkeys and stuff ready. This time of year, we're feeding all our guests at our 7 locations, as well as we get ready to start Thanksgiving. For Thanksgiving, we're going to do roast turkey with a turkey sauce, mashed potatoes, green beans, stuffing, cranberry, and then we do pumpkin pie with whipped topping. I always look at it, you never turn your back on anybody. And so I always thought coming up that you never forget about where you came from. My staff will be preparing 5,000 meals. It'll be close to 3,000 for the Thanksgiving dinner itself. And then we'll be preparing meals for the breakfast, and we'll be preparing meals for that evening. You don't never know who that person sitting next to you. You never know who that person you're feeding. And if the old saying go, never turn a shoulder to that person that's standing beside, because you don't know who they might be. You know, I don't judge anybody because I'm not here to judge. I'm here to do what I do best, and that's to give healthy meals out to people. Everybody is somebody, and if we treat them like they're nobody, then they're gonna feel that, and you should not. And who are we to treat somebody like that? I hope they feel that they're loved, that somebody care for them. That's what I do. Yeah, it's a lot of work. So it takes a lot. It's world wasted, no doubt about it. Being in this business for 50-something years, it's worth the work.
Marilyn's here with the feedback. She warns me it's my first negative feedback about the tie clip. I don't know if I want to read that, but we will. Is it really a snow day if we don't have a meteorologist freezing outside for a few hours? It's the kind of assignment that our Corey Reppenhagen relishes and sometimes makes him feel poetic.
Corey Reppenhagen is on the weather beat.
White holiday gift. Chills the stash, but warms the heart. Thankful for big snow.
That was Corey Reppenhagen on the weather beat.
To have that dusting. Chris with feedback. I've been watching since Next began. Do I color coordinate my glasses with my tie? No, it's really the glasses and maybe the shirt or the suit. Steven writes in, why do I wear a crazy glasses tie clip? I'm good, but the focus is too much on the tie clip. Not what I'm saying. I have so many of these now I kind of feel like wearing 2 or 3 at a time. This is my thing, Steven. It's always going to be around, even next time.